Hey, it's Soul, and this is another video to celebrate the World of Warcraft. And here's a new way to do it, with a character battle between legends. After we're through one, we'll celebrate victory in a glorious ritual of blood atop the Fallen. Today we feature two of the original 5 Paladins, Tirion Fordring and Exarch Turalyon. And this is current up to the Shadows of Argus patch in World of Warcraft Legion. These are two distinguished heroes of Azeroth, but in this battle,
there can only be one.
Well, because, hey, spoiler alert, Tyrion's already dead. Anyway, I'm going to compare each of these paladin hunks with my super scientific criteria, and by the end, maybe we'll have a winner. So let's meet our champions. Tirion Fordring served in his younger days as a knight, and alongside Turalyon became one of the founding paladins of the Silver Hand. After a series of wars, governorship, exile, and vengeance, he reforms the Silver Hand to fight the bad guys, and then merges his order with the Argent Dawn to create the Argent Crusade against the Lich King. He later works to restore the Plague Lands until the Third Legion invasion, where he leads his crusade one final time. Tiralyon's exploits came a little early when he picked up the mantle of Alliance High Commander after the fall of Anduin Lothar in the First War. He led the campaign of the Second War to close the Dark Portal in Draenor, then somehow gets whisked up to join Xera and a group of Draenei on a 1,000-year war against the Burning Legion across the Twisting Nether. So let's do some comparisons, shall we? Tirion wields the Ashbringer, a storied weapon crafted by one of the last kings of Ironforge. The Ashbringer had a troubled past with moving from one owner to the next, even becoming corrupted. In the Battle for Light's Hope, the blade was redeemed and claimed by Tirion in a decisive battle. The Ashbringer doesn't play around, turning the undead to dust and otherwise being a crazy-looking blade in its own right. By most accounts, Turalyon wields the Great Royal Sword, once held by Anduin Lothar. Lothar dueled Ogrim Doomhammer in single combat and lost, breaking both Lothar and his sword. Turalyon rallied the alliance behind this broken weapon, and he somehow still wields it to this day, although now it appears to be enchanted by the light in some form of badassery. Otherwise, it may not have been a blade of any great significance. I'm not one to compare the accomplishments of others through their children, but I'm going to. Tyrion's son Talon was a paladin who became High Lord of the Scarlet Crusade, but was killed upon the discovery of his order's less than awesome activities. Tiralyon's son Eretor also became a paladin, but he just recently joined the Order of the Silver Hand only after the first battle for the Broken Shore. So funny enough, Eretor doesn't work directly alongside his father during the War for Argus, but for the current High Lord of the Silver Hand, which is, by the way, me. Turalyon might be his father, but he calls me Daddy. Since we're on families, might as well talk about lovers, cause nothing's sacred, right? Turalyon currently knocks boots with Alleria Windrunner, one of the 3 Windrunner sisters. They have one kid like I mentioned, Eretor, and they've been together for 1,000 years. Now that's gonna mean something. Maybe their son kept them together. Maybe Turalyon makes a mean sandwich that she'll never get tired of. Maybe she's better than the alternatives. But they're not officially married. I guess, they're being hip and don't want to conform to the norms. Tirion was married to Karandra Fordring, but unfortunately they didn't share the 1,000-year bond. Tirion got into a bad thing with the Order of the Silver Hand and was exiled. Fortunately, his family wasn't, and Karandra decided to not join Tirion in exile so she could raise her son properly, as in without his father. Maybe things could have turned out differently if she just went along. Tirion is a celebrated hero among both the Horde and Alliance for his actions up to the Battle for the Broken Shore. With that comes age and a body that's weathered, but tempered with experience, and a dress. But, that's okay, that's his class fantasy, and I have mine. Tiralyon's been fighting for the past 1,000 years, which has to count for something other than looking like Tron, but without a backstory, just how much does that count for? How much of those 1,000 years was spent traveling, eating, sleeping, pooping, knocking boots? Needless to say though, Turalyon does have a lot more years on Tirion, but Tirion does show his age. Turalyon cruised the stars on the Xenadar, a Draenei Naru ship that cruised around for an unknown amount of time before getting shot down early in the War for Argus. Tirion has a horse named Mirador. Ooh. Turalyon is High Exarch of the Army of the Light, which might mean he leads it. The army is more like a guerrilla unit that poked and prodded at the Legion for many years. Notable figures like Alleria Windrunner and the Dreadlord Lithraxian were critical to the successes of both the army and of Azeroth's defenders during the third invasion of the Legion. They're a relatively small group when you think about how to fight an army of armies, but they've got the talent and drive to at least survive this long, if nothing else. Tyrion's led a number of groups, including the Knights of the Silver Hand, the Argent Dawn, and the Argent Crusade. Many famous paladins and political leaders joined his righteous defenses of Azeroth and, well, defending life. During the Battle for the Broken Shore, though, the Argent Crusade was all but wiped out. In its place, the Knights of the Silver Hand was once again reformed under new leadership. Back to this cool guy over here. So as a more direct comparison, let's ask ourselves, who is the better tactician? It sort of depends on which part of their lives we're talking about. Turalyon brought victory for the Alliance after their darkest moment, the fall of Anduin Lothar, and led the successful campaign to close the Dark Portal. But he's hardly perfect. In Shadows of Argus, Turalyon engages the Legion alone, without making contact with the armies of Legion Fall first, cause that'd be a good idea. In fact, there's no indication that he couldn't have showed up way earlier, like the first battle for the Broken Shore, or the second. An entire world's resources could have been at his disposal, and it's not quite known why he sent Lithraxion alone to assist the Paladins as opposed to sending everything he had, including himself, to help with the defense of his home planet. Arguably, he should be the more experienced battlefield commander. Over 1,000 years, he's still alive. It's simple math. Maybe he learned a lot over his 1,000-year campaign with his crack team of Draenei. Maybe he got cocky and slipped up. Tirion straight up does not have the experience of command that Turalyon does. If anything, call it inconsistent. Tirion did set up a foothold in Icecrown. That's smart. Setting up another one for the purpose of mostly fun and sports is questionable. Setting up shop at the base of Icecrown Citadel, smart. But he also engaged the Lich King alone atop Icecrown Citadel with no personal companions of his own, and on top of that charged in alone. This isn't the critical mistake though. On the Legion's most recent invasion, Tirion brought his Argent Crusade not just to the Broken Isles, but straight to the Broken Shore itself. And that wasn't very smart. He could have set himself up on Azuna or the Eye of Ashara as an observation post to maybe get an idea of what's going on while the Alliance and Horde make their way over. Instead, he led his people to the slaughter. So those are some of the more obvious comparisons. Who do you think is the greater Paladin? Tirion or Turalyon? Vote and share your thoughts in a comment. Like this video if you enjoyed yourself, and otherwise support me the best way you can, even if you have to tell me this stank worse than cat meat. Thank you, share your thoughts, and stay breezy.